Thank you very much. Very shortly we're going to be talking to a young man called John Richardson, not quite so young, who decided that he was fed up with being a very average golfer, going around in upper 80s, 90s and hundreds on occasion, and he was going to really resolutely try and get his handicap down and get his scores down. And he went from 103 to 70 inside a year. The applause you can hear on the 18th is for an immensely long putt from about 45 feet or more, I would think. But it's a very muted applause because there's so few people here. So if you are one of those guys who are a regular golfer, you're at the weekends, one of the great joys you have in your life is going down to the golf course, but it is eternally frustrating because you're not good enough. Maybe this man, John Richardson, can offer you a few tips in just a moment or so. I'm having to back off from the 18th, actually. Thank you very much, Ali. You know when you look at a book and it always says on the front, unmissable, The Guardian. Undoubtedly the best book of the year by some person who you've never heard of, and think, well, yeah, and? So anyway, I've got this book in front of me called Dream On by John Richardson. I'll just read what it says on the back. I have a friend, a guy called John, who is undertaking a golf challenge. He has a full-time job and a wife and a child, and he's trying to shoot a level par round within the year. When he began the challenge, he couldn't break 100, so he's trying to take 33 strokes off his game in one single year, and he asked me to find out your opinion on that. Sam Torrance, Ryder Cup legend, laughed, and then slowly contemplated the question. Well, he said, you can tell him from me to dream on, which is why the book is called Dream On. And this is John Richardson. How you doing?
I'm great, thanks, John. I'm great.
And you did it?
I did it, yes. I mean, not without a fair amount of pain, I have to say, and I suppose in fairness there's an awful lot of truth in what Sam said. It wasn't anything like as easy as I thought, but hit about 70,000 golf balls, read about 60-odd books, totally drove my wife to distraction.
How bad were you when the year began?
Well, my control round, as I would say, which is the starting round, was 103, but I went and played that with the pro at Blackwood, where I did most of my work.
In Northern Ireland? In
Northern Ireland, yeah. And but that was about the best round I'd played for a long time, so I think all of us kind of improve when you're playing with somebody very good.
So just describe your game at that stage. Erratic?
Well, I shot a 10 on the first, on that's kind of encapsulates a lot of it. Enormously erratic. I mean, I did have some ability to, get, the odd sort of hold reasonably well together. But yeah, I mean, a 10 kind of encapsulates just what I was capable of doing at that level. And I couldn't break 100. I'd played a little bit as a child, but by this stage my game was atrocious. I mean, it was terrible. It was embarrassing, and that's what prompted the whole thing to a very large extent.
So you kind of reach a point, don't you, where you think, I either stop playing this game because it's A, giving me no pleasure, and B, is actually almost making me ill because it's annoying me so much, or you resolve to do something about it. So what was the first thing you did?
Well, to a very large extent, as you say, I'd reached a stage where I was going to have to give it all up because I had seen Seve play and win the Irish Open in about 1981, and at that stage had naively thought, I could be good, because everybody wants to be Seve. Kind of people still want to be Seve, certainly in those swashbuckling days. So I'd reached that stage where it was humiliating to go out there and think, I'm just atrocious at this. So I put it off, the challenge, though, for about 10 years, as you say, we all put it off, And then I went out, shot that control round, thought I had some sort of a swing, but then sat down with my pro and went right back to basics. And we spent the first 2 weeks just doing the first part of the takeaway and the stance, which I just thought was humiliating. Again, right? You have to go right back to beginning, basics like that,
So a month in
yeah.
to this regime, how much had you improved by that point?
Well, probably the better story is 6 weeks in, I went and played up in Portstewart. Tricky course, and I shot 104, so I'd gone backwards, but there was a chink of light in my sort of kind of overly optimistic eyes, in that I came back in, I shot 66 out or something horrendous out, and I knew it was spiralling out of control, and I had a chat with myself on the 10th, and then I came back in a much better figure, and so I thought, I have made some progress, and it was a tough course, but then...
So 66 out, I'm doing the maths here, so you came back in 40.
No, I think I was about 63 out, because I remember thinking, yes, I was going to be 126 if I'd come back in what I went out in.
So the back nine saved your life.
Yeah,
so as the weeks and months go by and you start getting better,
yeah.
In a sense that's almost the worst situation to be in, because then you start having ideas above your station.
Totally. I worked really, really, really hard at it to begin with, and did a lot of, completely got my swing together, and got my confidence went through the roof. And I shot a 78 in about October, which was about 5 months in. And it's exactly as you say. Then I just thought, you know what, I could maybe do this in 6 months, or I could do, it'll be done by Christmas, and I'll get Christmas off. And then I didn't break 80 again for nearly 6 months after that, because I was getting a lot better, but everything was sort of, it wasn't coming together, if you know what I mean.
We'll talk more in a second. We will talk more with John Richardson in just a second about his book Dream On, going from 100 to 70 on the golf course in 1 year. He actually dedicates the book to Seve Ballesteros on the front. But I'll just read this quote to you from Walt Disney, which I suspect is the sort of apex of the whole book, and we'll talk about this after the news. A quote from Walt Disney: "Somehow I can't believe there are any heights that can't be scaled by a man who knows the secret of making dreams come true. This special secret, it seems to me, can be summarized by the 4 C's. They are curiosity, confidence, courage, and constancy. And the greatest of those is confidence. When you believe a thing, believe it all the way, implicitly and unquestionably." I leave those thoughts with you as we head to the news. The nature of 5 Live that the running order can sometimes be thrown out the window because things happen. So we are talking to John Richardson about his book Dream On, which I would heartily... I've never read it, I must say that in advance, but I'm just looking at it and I know I want to read it. And so I'm heartily, sort of in absentia, recommending it to anybody who plays golf off any sort of handicap from 10 upwards. Because it's, his dream is to actually break par, which eventually manages to do, of which more shortly. But, John Richardson, listen, we must talk about your book just for a couple more minutes, Dream On. So anyway, we'd left you 20 minutes or so ago. For those of you who've just joined us, John was a 103 golfer going around in 30-odd over par, and he thought, I can't stand this anymore, I'm going round the bend, I've either got to give the game up or I'm going to have to work on it. And so his ambition was, within 12 months, to get to play a round below par. As you were getting towards that magical moment when you were playing the odd round of 2 and 3 over but couldn't quite get there, how tantalising was that?
Oh, incredibly so, but extremely difficult, because what happens is, when you've set yourself that type of a goal and you're expecting to go and shoot par, because I was actually trying to shoot par, conveniently I broke it, but and you're out there, and you've done a front 9 of, level 1 under, and you're drifting into the back 9, and you're going to, the pressure just ramps right up. So, it's nothing like what they're doing out here, but there's a slight element of that. How do you maintain yourself in the back 9 if you're maybe Rory McIlroy, on Sunday, with that pressure? And I kept collapsing under that pressure, because the pressure was suddenly then just, this is going to be the day, and then the whole game would disappear. So I was always losing it in the back 9, so I had to really work in the back 9, and then it'll state,
Okay, I have one more question to ask you, and that will come after news, which we, from a British perspective, from an English perspective, was hoping wouldn't happen all day, but finally it has. A wicket has fallen. Pat Murphy. Richardson, about his book, about getting from the appalling position of playing rounds of golf in 100 and more to that moment of sporting nirvana when you finally broke par. When you stood on the 18th of that round, what state were you in there?
Well, I had sort of played the thing in my mind so many times up to coming to that. But I wasn't too bad that time, because I was 1 under, and the 18th is one of those holes that I would always regard as one of the easiest in the course. You can sort of hit it as hard as you like, and, if you have a wild hook or a wild slice, you're not really going to lose it. So I was confident there in a way that I never expected to be, because I knew I had a shot in hand. And then I actually played it probably better than I've ever played it, and I missed a relatively short putt for a 69, which was then sort of like, oh no, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So my state of mind wasn't as bad, anything like as bad as I expected it to be, because the rest of the round had, sort of set me up for it.
And the euphoria?
Oh, just huge, but a really odd sort of thing, because I had sort of not destroyed my family life, but, I had a lot of amends to make up at home, and it was kind of weird afterwards, and then relief as much as anything else. It's sort of an odd thing,
And Sam Torrance had said Dream On. And have you spoken to Sam since?
No, I haven't. I've been trying to see whether I can get a hold of him this week.
Well, he's here working for BBC TV. You ought to go.
I need to try and go and stick my nose in,
Well, maybe we'll try and organise for you to go and talk to our TV colleagues, because I'm sure you would love that.
Yeah, well, they were trying to organise it, but I haven't heard it yet.
Oh, I'm sure. Listen, what do you do next then? Well, now you've done the hardest thing on earth. What do you do now?
Well, interestingly, getting the book published suddenly became the hardest thing in the world, So that was the key thing, was to get the book written, because I've never written a book before and all of those things. But certainly in my golf, I don't play anything like as much as I did then, So, I'm still playing a bit, but I had the idle dreams of becoming a pro, but that went out the window.
Listen, the overwhelming majority of people listening to us at this moment have never played and will never play around under par. That's the frightening thing about golf. So you You are in the select few. So anyway, listen, lovely to talk to you.
Best
of luck with the book, and I'll just say the book is called Dream On by John Richardson. It's published by Blackstaff Grass, and it's available at £9.99. And say again?
It's an Amazon, number 2 in Amazon.
Is it really? He said with a big grin on his face.
Yeah.
Good on you. Lovely to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for that, John. Let's check the travel. Here's Nick.